First thing to note that is the official title. We often use the word Winter Olympics, but in fact the official name is the Olympic Winter Games. The evolution of the Winter Olympics is somewhat different from the Summer Olympics in that it came later in history. To begin with, Scandinavian countries had a great deal of control over winter sports and were reluctant to cede that control to a French-controlled Olympic movement. So Scandinavian countries were hoping to manage winter sports as their own nationalistic expression, and the Olympics was a challenge to that. At the same time, some winter sports were included as part of the Summer Olympics. In 1920, they included winter sports that could be performed on ice, like skating. For many years, the Winter Olympics were held in the same year as the Summer Olympics, until 1992, when the Winter Olympics were shifted to every 4-year cycle, but 2 years distant from the Summer Olympics. The Winter Olympics are smaller events that started later and have different characteristics to some of the major Summer Olympic host cities and events. The winter host cities are very different for the most part for Winter Olympics. Usually they're much smaller. They have far less capacity to handle crowds. A city like London, hosting the 2012 Olympics, had a vast capacity and infrastructure to handle people. But many cities that host the Winter Olympics are small, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people, and even Sochi at 300,000 people is fairly small. So the cities are small and they have a problem of handling capacity, of providing accommodation, of providing transportation, of managing the venues needed. Frequently, Winter Olympics have spread out venues across surrounding mountains, unlike most Summer Olympics, which are fairly concentrated. There is a high cost per resident of hosting the Winter Olympics, so there is need to look at what value is generated from the investment in this event. Another issue for the Winter Olympics is weather. Will there be sufficient snow to host the event successfully? Now, if we look at the first time that winter sports were common in the Olympics, we go back to 1924, when the Olympics decided to hold an event in Chamonix, France, to focus on winter sports. And as you can see in this poster from the event, it was a very dramatic expression of the event. What is interesting about this poster is that it shows nothing about the Olympic movement or the IOC. In fact, it was not until the year after Chamonix, which ended up being a pilot or demonstration in some ways, that the Olympic movement decided to hold a separate Winter Olympics. So in 1925, the IOC decided that the Winter Olympics would exist. But that was after the first Winter Olympics was held. It was only 4 years later, at the St. Moritz 1928 Winter Olympics, that the 1924 Winter Olympics were acknowledged as the first Winter Olympics. So the first Winter Olympics after the designation of the Winter Olympics was in fact listed as the second Winter Olympics historically for the Olympic movement. To give you an example of what the early Winter Olympics looked like, we have a couple of images to look at. The earlier Olympics were much simpler, less formal events. And as you can see from these images of the St. Moritz Olympics in 1928, it was very much an informal sporting event. The first image shows the opening ceremony, when the athletes marched through the town and to one of the event spaces for that Winter Olympics. The second image shows some of the sliding skating events taking place on a frozen lake. You can see there's no security, spectators watched what they wanted, events took place in a way that may seem chaotic and informal today, when we are used to very well-structured, organized events. But the very first Winter Olympics were simple affairs that engaged people and spectators who were very much able to be close to participants and to enjoy the event at a personal level.